She's gonna talk to her people to see
We're
if
streaming
they'll.
now, Mom.
Oh, we are.
Yep,
Well,
just
I
letting you
just
know.
wait.
We already said prayer.
Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead, you can sit there, Mom.
Thank you. Whose is this?
That's mine.
I'm glad you told me we were streaming.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Ready?
Well, it's great to have you with us. My name is Craig Rochelle, and welcome to episode number 1 of the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. Since we're just getting started, if this is helpful to you, it would mean a lot if you'd give a review, or if this is really valuable information and you want to share it with people on social media, that would mean a lot. If you don't know anything about me, which is very likely, I'll start off by saying I'm a massive student of leadership. I read everything I can on leadership, study from the best of the best. I believe that when a leader gets better, the whole organization gets better. And so I want to devote this podcast really to investing in leaders, believing that we all can get better and impact the organizations that we're a part of. I actually am honored to teach at leadership events around the country. In fact, if you live on the West Coast and are interested in joining me, I'll be with my good friend Andy Stanley, who has an amazing leadership podcast. I highly recommend that you listen to Andy. And we're doing one-day leadership events in 2 cities in the month of February. We'll be in San Francisco and in Seattle. We'll be in San Francisco on February the 16th, and we'll be in Seattle on February the 18th. If you live in that part of the country or you're interested in finding out more, you can go to catalystconference.com/one-day, catalystconference.com/one-day, and we would love to see you there. We'll be in 6 or 7 different cities this year, and other places as well I'll tell you about in upcoming weeks. If you're curious a little bit about me, I'm actually married. I've been married to my best friend Amy for 25 years. We have 6 kids. People say, wow, 6 kids, you must love kids. I always say, not really, I love my wife. Wink, 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 right? You know what I'm saying? 2 of our kids are grown, and they actually serve in the organization that I lead. It's amazing to watch as my kids are really developing into leaders. We love to teach leadership at home. We love to teach leadership everywhere we are, everywhere we go, because we really believe that leadership changes the world. A little bit about the organization that I lead. 20 years ago, my wife Amy and I started a church called Life Church. In the 20 years we've been leading it, it's grown from a little 2-car garage to now our church meets in 24 different locations in 7 different states. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because it really takes a lot of leadership and amazing leaders to have an organization meeting in different states and continuing to grow. Our church also started the YouVersion Bible app, and this is an app that's been downloaded now more than 200 million times. And so there's a whole other organization under the church that is producing this app that's being downloaded tens of thousands of times every single day. And so leadership really, really matters. And so when we're talking about this, I am going to be talking from the perspective of being a church leader. But I promise you that leadership principles are transferable. So if you're starting up a business, the leadership principles will apply to you. If you're leading an organization, if you hope to be a leader one day, if you're leading a nonprofit, if you want to be a better leader in your family, I believe the leadership principles that we talk about can be very, very helpful. Here's what you can expect. We're going to release 2 or 3 podcasts very quickly, and that'll give you something to kind of listen to. And then once a month, most likely on the first Thursday of the month, we'll release a new podcast. I'll work hard to honor your time, to bring quality content in a short period of time. And then we'll also be posting these. Not only will they be on iTunes, YouTube, they'll be at lifechurch/open. We'll put the notes everywhere we can. They'll be available at craigrochellebooks.com and other places. What's really important to me is to hear from you I love asking questions, and I love answering questions when I know the answers. If you've got questions, you can email me at leadership@life.church, leadership@life.church, and then as the weeks progress, I'll answer a few of the questions each time we get together. So let's dive in today, and what I want to do is talk to you about 6 different types of leaders and the results of these types of leaders. 6 different types of leaders and the results that we see from these types of leadership. We'll probably talk about 3 today and probably talk about 3 in the next episode. And you'll likely see yourself in one or more of these types. Chances are really, really good that you're going to think, hey, I worked for her or I worked for him. And you'll recognize that people that you've worked with or worked for have these types as well. At the end of the session, I'll give you a few questions that you can ask yourself or ask team members if you want to work through this as a group. And we'll dive in talking about these 6 different types. We'll talk about a few today. We're going to talk about unpredictable leaders. We're going to talk about domineering leaders. We're going to talk about secretive leaders. We're going to talk about passive leaders. We're going to talk about healthy leaders and empowering leaders. Unpredictable, domineering, secretive, passive, healthy, and empowering. What do these types of leaders produce in their organizations? All right, let's talk for a minute about unpredictable leaders. You may have worked for somebody, you never know what they're going to do. What do unpredictable leaders produce? Well, unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. If you've ever worked for someone who's unpredictable, you're very likely over time to become more hesitant in your own leadership. Why? Because you never know what they're going to do. You don't know what to expect. Therefore, you're hesitant. You may be a little bit afraid. You may be very, very tentative. For example, I worked in sales for 10 months before starting Life Church. And I had a sales manager that, oh my goodness, was he ever unpredictable. You never knew what this guy was going to do. I might be on a sales call with him when he was training me, and in the middle of it, he would just take over and just almost move me out of the way. Maybe I deserved it, I don't know, but he would just take over. There were times when I'd be out on my own where he'd just show up unannounced and just be there with me on the sales call. He would actually fine us money if we were late to a sales meeting. For the record, I was not late, but he'd find somebody else and say, you're fined $5 for being late. Next time, people would be late and there'd be no fine. We just would never know. He might yell at you, ah! Next time he might hug you. You never ever knew what you were going to get from this guy. And as a result, all of the sales team, we were scared. And it wasn't a healthy fear, it was more of like, we don't know what to expect. We don't know if we're going to let this guy down. We don't know if we're doing well. We don't know if we're doing poorly. We just don't know because he's so unpredictable. In my world, in the church world, a lot of church leaders I work with say they're very often incredibly frustrated because pastors are unpredictable. What will happen is they might go off to a meeting somewhere, to a conference, and they come back and say, now this is what we're going to do. And we're going to be all about small groups, or we're going to be all about evangelism. We're going to be all about whatever. And people are going, well, last time you went to a conference, you came back, you told us we're going to be all about whatever, and that lasted about 3 weeks. So there's often no focus, no consistency, and with this unpredictability, people are hesitant. We don't know if you're actually going to follow through with this. We don't know if we're going to get anywhere. And all of a sudden the organization is very, very frail because of the unpredictability. If you identify this as maybe something in your own leadership, and again, oftentimes it's difficult to see your own weaknesses. You have to really get honest feedback. Work on consistency. When you say the same thing over and over and over again as a leader, that builds trust. When your actions are consistent with your words, that builds trust. Consistency matters in leadership. I would rather follow a leader with a consistently average plan than a leader with a great plan, a bad plan, a mediocre plan that changes all the time. Remember, a quote I love to say is that successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Don't be an unpredictable leader. Unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. Let's talk about another type of leader, and that would be domineering leaders. Maybe you've worked for a domineering leader. It's my way or the highway. Because I said so, that's why. We're going to do what I want to do. Your voice doesn't matter. This is the way it's going to be. What does a domineering leader produce? Well, a domineering leader produces compliant followers. A domineering leader produces compliant followers. In other words, they may scare you, intimidate you, threaten you, or coerce you into following. And here's the challenge. They may actually get some decent short-term results. Why? Because people are compliant. We're going to do what you want. But over time, it's always devastating to an organization. It always is. Because domineering leaders create weak teams. Let me say that again. Domineering leaders create weak teams. People don't think for themselves. They don't become better leaders. They simply do what they've been told to do. They become yes people. Yes, yes sir, yes ma'am, I'll do whatever. You may get compliance from your people if you're dominant as a leader, but you will not get commitment. You don't want compliance, you want commitment. And here's the challenge. The bigger your organization gets, the more people are likely to fear you. So if you're leading 3 people, hey, you can have a relationship. If you're leading 300, oh my goodness, the boss just walked into the room. And you have to work even harder because here's what I found, that as a leader that's respected, you may make a suggestion and it comes across as a command. You may even ask a question, hey, I was wondering about this, what if we tried this? And people are so eager to please you that they may try to reorganize everything around doing what they think you want them to do. So, as your organization gets bigger, you have to work even harder not to come across as domineering. The biggest question or biggest suggestion I have for you, as if you don't want to be domineering, is to ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Make sure you ask 10 times as many questions as you give directions. Let me say that again. Make sure you ask 10 times as many questions as you offer directions. We do not want to be a domineering leader because domineering leaders produce compliant followers. Thought number 1, unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. Domineering leaders produce compliant followers. The third thing is this, secretive leaders, let's talk about that. Secretive leaders, those who, hey, I can't tell you this, you know, you're not important enough to know. This is only for the top people to handle. You can't handle this. Secretive leaders produce guarded followers. Secretive leaders produce guarded followers. If you as the leader keep all the information or there's just a few people at the top that know what's going on, what we're doing is we're communicating that we don't trust the people that are serving our organization. And the reality is, if we don't trust them, how in the world can we expect them to trust us? In fact, I love Simon Sinek. He says this. He says, a team is not a group of people who work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. A team is not a group of people who just work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. If we are guarded with information, then we're not communicating that we trust. If we don't trust others, how are they going to trust us? And if our team, if they're guarded, then they're not going to give us feedback. And this is really, really dangerous because if our team will not give us feedback, then we can't know the truth. Then there's not a posture for them to bring about suggestions to make the organization better. And we need to understand that as leaders, we only see the organization from one direction. The people that are on the front lines, they are thinking about solutions to problems that we do not even know exist. We have to engage their minds, their heart, their commitment to contribute to the organization, or we're always going to be limited in what we know and what we can do. And the bottom line is this, leader, if you are surrounded by people that cannot or will not tell you the truth, your days of effectiveness are very, very numbered. We must be transparent. Here's what's going on in the organization. We need to be vulnerable. You know, I don't really know what we need to do right now. We need to be honest. When we communicate information, we are communicating that we trust other people. And without trust, we don't have anything. So, With communicating information, we're creating buy-in. Oh, well, they trust me with this. Well, maybe they want my ideas. Well, because they trust me with this, then I believe I can make a difference in the organization. And we need to remember, the more that they know, the more they will care. The more they know, the more they will care. So we refuse to be secretive in our leadership. Today, we're talking about 3 different types of leaders, and these are negative. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about some positive types. We talked today about unpredictable leaders, about domineering leaders, about secretive leaders. What I'd like for you to do is, if you have a team with you, is maybe to gather with the team and ask these questions. Ask this: how am I unpredictable as a leader? How am I unpredictable as a leader? Because the reality is, if you are, you're not going to know it. You think you're consistent, you think you have a plan, but you don't. You need to hear from other people. How am I unpredictable as a leader? And then ask, what are 1 or 2 things I can do to build trust with predictability? What are 1 or 2 things that I can do? And if you ask this question to your team members, they're going to tell you honestly. Number 1, just by asking them, you're telling them, I want to be more predictable, I want to learn. By asking other these questions, you're going to give them the freedom to bring insight to you to help you get better as a leader. Ask them this. Second set of questions would be, am I ever domineering? Am I ever domineering? Maybe even a better way to ask it is, how am I domineering? Assume that as a leader, most likely we probably are. How am I domineering? And then ask them this: what could I do to make sure everyone has a chance to offer their wisdom? What could I do? And they're going to tell you, you know what? In meetings, you need to ask for our opinions. Or we'd love to give you feedback about whatever. Getting the insight and the wisdom from your team matters more than you can imagine. If you're the only one bringing direction, ideas, you will be the ceiling on your organization. How am I being domineering? What could I do to make sure everyone has a chance to offer their wisdom? And then let's talk about secretive leaders. Secretive leaders. And this is just the question that I would ask and see what happens. Ask, what are 3 things I could share that will help people feel valued and care more about our mission? What are 3 things? I like 3 things because 1 thing is just like, hey, well, what are we doing about such and such? But if we talk about 3 things, we're getting deeper into some categories of things that people really want to know about. Whenever I meet with different teams from our organization, I always ask them, what do you not know that you want to know? And I'm always surprised that oftentimes it's just, to me, the things that I would think everybody would know, or the things that everybody should know, but we have failed to communicate. One of the biggest challenges in a growing organization is we tend to assume that people know. We can never assume. Communicate, 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 communicate. The more they know, the more they care. The more they know, the more they care. The more they know, the more they care. Let's help them know a lot, so they'll care a lot, they'll have vision buy-in, and they'll really help contribute. Now, next week, we're going to talk about passive leaders. Hate passive leaders. Okay, we're going to talk about healthy leaders. Then there's going to be a little twist that might surprise you. There's a step beyond healthy leaders, and that's empowering leaders. We're going to talk about that in the next episode. I want to remind you, if you have questions, send them to leadership@life.church, leadership@life.church. If you enjoy this and it's helpful, tell somebody, because leaders help others lead better. Remember, you don't have to know it all to be a great leader. Be yourself. Why? Because people would rather follow a leader who is always real than one who is always right. See you next time for the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast.
Okay. Just let me know when we're on. Praise the Lord. So this was actually one of the first podcasts that I listened to. I guess I originally found Craig Rochelle when he did this podcast, It's About Time, that changed my life forever. Helped me to realize, whoa, I need to reevaluate some of my priorities. And then, because it made such an impact on my life, I'm like, what else does he have on here? So I went to episode 1, I saw this, I was like, whoa, this is incredible. Because I saw I saw the leadership in some of these qualities in some of the people I've worked with, and I realized some of the reason why. I don't know. Just go through some hard times, and so it was really healing and eye-opening for me to understand these 6 types of leaders. So I got a question. What stood out to you guys the most?
I don't think I'd ever thought about the different types of leaders. I know there's leaders, I know there's good leaders, there's bad leaders. But I never would have categorized them that way.
There's 5 bad leaders. These are 5 types of bad leaders.
Well, healthy is not bad.
Yeah, it is.
It is bad?
Yep. The greatest enemy of best is good, and empowering is the best.
Well, I understand that. Because that's the last one. It's
Just,
so empowering.
just wait until you hear it. You'll see the difference.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a big limit on healthy leaders.
All right. Well, I mean, I learned a lot today already, so I'm sure I'll learn more in part 2. But I just had never, I don't know, I never really thought about breaking them down into the different, what kind of leaders people are. And I mean, you know, in nursing and stuff, I mean, we have supervisors, those are leaders. And then we have the, you know, the one above that one, the one above that one. So I've had a lot of leaders for the 14 years I was doing nursing. But I just never had thought about the categories. Now my brain is thinking.
It gives you a framework that you can then put, you can categorize life and process things and realize, well, when people are and our team is hesitant, we know why. And we get to reflect, like, what kind of leader am I? Because leadership isn't about position, it's about influence. And we all have influence, so we're all leaders. It's like, well, what kind of leadership do I have?
Right.
Like, am I one? Which of these 6? And then how can I be more empowering?
Empowering, yeah.
That's neat. Does anyone else want to share what stood out to them? Is Tina still here?
I think so. Yeah.
Tina, I know you gotta go soon, so I'm gonna let you go next. What stood out to you? I know you got background noise, but don't worry. Is anyone else on Discord? Okay. Tina, you're muted. Going once, going twice. Alright, Mom, what stood out to you?
Oh wait, there she is.
Oh, there she is. Tina, the train has left the station.
Sorry, I was just in the middle of like a forward stop, so I couldn't like.
Safety first.
Yeah. I'm at a gas station, so I was trying to take notes because I mean it's not going to work that way, but this is like the first one that you shared with me, and now like looking back, I listened to this in California. Now looking back, I'm like, whoa, I've learned so much more. I'm not sure what stood out to me. There were some powerful things, but because I didn't write them down, it's just like a blur. Or, not a blur, but...
My notes get blurry when I don't write stuff down. But there's not like one thing, there's nothing at all that you could like mention that, because you got to consider the benefit that you receive through expression. Expression deepens the impression. So even if there's like, even if it was not like the biggest aha that you got in the whole podcast, anything you express you're going to retain a lot further. Even though you didn't take notes, one of the best things you can do is to express what little you remember.
True.
Do you remember what the 3 types were?
I remember domineering leaders produce compliance, compliant
Followers.
followers. And there was unpredictable leaders produce hesitant people. Like they have hesitant followers.
Yep. And that word followers is key.
Yeah.
These different types of leaders are producing followers.
Exactly. It's just amazing how, honestly, it just depends on the type of leader. That's how everything is gonna run. Like the efficiency, like the leader produces the environment, the just everything is like based upon the leader. A lot of it, anyways.
Yeah, John Maxwell puts it this way: everything rises and falls upon leadership.
That's intense.
Everything. And when you look at every single one of us is a leader, then again it just boils back to like strengthening and struggling team that we studied together. It was responsibility, taking ownership. Everything rises and falls upon my shoulders. And we could say that individually. Everything rises and falls on your shoulders and mine. And so it's just when we take 100% ownership of everything in our lives, not in our lives, we have no one else to blame. So do you remember what the third type of leader was? Are you going to keep it a secret?
No, I don't want to. I'm just trying to remember.
That is the answer.
You're cracking up in here.
A secret leader.
Secretive leader.
Oh, a secret. Oh. I get it.
Can we turn her up? I can't really hear her when she's talking. I know you guys are real close, but... And the microphone's right here. I don't know if it's picking it up in vMix.
You can't hear me?
I can now. We just need to turn up the speaker a little bit.
Okay.
So, what kind of followers does a secretive leader produce?
Uncertain followers, right?
Untrustful.
Untrustful, okay. Okay. Untrustful followers.
Hey, you said that it was just a blur, but you got it. You got it down pretty pat.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna have to mute myself because I can't.
sounds good. So domineering and what was the second one?
Unpredictable.
Unpredictable. Oh, that's right. Yes.
It's actually domineering was second, unpredictable was first, but it doesn't matter because...
All right, that's good enough.
It's really interesting how, like, the more people know, the more people care. That's really interesting because the way I grew up, like, my parents a lot of times would say, "No, you can't do it," and they would never tell the reason why. So, as children, you're like, "But why? I don't see anything wrong with it." And then it's like, yeah, but the more people know, the more people care. It's really interesting.
Yes, and that goes along with the concept of the what is irrelevant until you understand the why first.
Amen.
And that's like Simon Sinek says, lead with the why. And that's why I value more that people would understand why we are doing what we're doing or why we exist. I value casting the vision because the more the vision someone understands, they'll figure out the what. They'll figure out the how. They'll understand and solve those problems. The more bought in they are to the vision, they will motivate them to want to be like, look, I'm going to figure this out because I'm so sold on why we're doing. You have meaning, you have reason, you have purpose. And that's what compels people to action. And if people don't care, if they're not engaged, they're disengaged followers, it's because they have not bought into that vision. And the more that we share, the more people will care and they'll want to participate. Same thing with our problems. When we have personal problems and we're not getting the help that we think we want or need, It's because we haven't been sharing with people. We haven't shared, so people don't care. They don't know to care because we haven't shared it yet.
They don't even know that they need to care sometimes.
Yeah, what stood out to you, Kamran?
What stood out to me is the kinds of people these leaders produce.
Mm-hmm.
The kinds of leaders that they produce, not just followers.
Why did that stand out to you?
So that's something that I've seen in the past. I see it now. I see how that's affected my life. And I don't want to be domineering, unpredictable, or secretive.
Mm-hmm.
Neither do I. Yeah. It is powerful. The pain and the hurt. What else stood out to you, brother? Or can you think of something that you can do differently as a result of what you learned? Like something you could immediately apply that will help you to not be unpredictable, domineering, or secretive? It might be sharing more of what you have. It might be trusting people more. It might be communicating, which communicates trust. It might be asking questions and listening. It might be, which you already do a lot of that. It might be trusting people with information. You can think about it, we can go on to Mom. Alright, Mom, what stood out to you?
Well, it's hard for me to know a secretive leader.
What do you mean it's hard for you to know a secretive leader?
Yeah. Do we know a secretive leader in common?
I think you're a secretive leader.
I am a secretive
Yeah.
leader.
I think out of all those, it's you.
Yeah.
Out of all 6.
I know. I was trying to see somebody else who's like that because I know I'm secretive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who else? Yeah, there was I was listening to this one video where this guy was so afraid that his workers were going to steal his trade, and so he was talking about how to protect your success secrets from the virtual assistants that you hire on, so they don't like start companies and try to put you out of business or something. And I'm like, that dude's a secretive leader. It's like I wouldn't want to work for him. And he was concerned about that.
But do we know somebody personally?
Oh, know someone personally?
Yeah. This is hard for me to think of a secretive leader.
Do you know a secretive leader?
I know I don't like people knowing everything I'm doing and watching and seeing, what I'm doing and stuff. And sure. There's got to be other people out there like that.
Well, I mean, like that, Pastor Smith is like that a lot. He's very secretive in the sense of, like, he's trusting with people. He's like, yeah, I think in a large degree he has secretive tendencies. There's a lot of things he doesn't want people to know, or is afraid of them being aware of or something. And he didn't get on Facebook for a long time, or he's always like concerned about what the government's doing or information they have. And the reason why he didn't get online, or like I kept encouraging him for years, like, look, record your videos and post them online. He's like, no, I don't want the government to know what's going on. I don't want everyone to know. I'm like, why are you preaching the gospel? It's because you want everyone to know. But I mean, there's a lot of similarities there.
So people who have like a what I call a what's that? Oh, what is that called? When they're preparing for the end.
Preppers?
Yeah, I call them something else. Anyway,
Doomsday?
people like that are secretive leaders.
Yeah, they have a lot of secretive
Mentality.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I see. Well, that was my aha. Because I'm like, I know I'm a secretive leader because I don't like anybody to know anything. If I sneeze, I don't want them to hear it, you know? It's just like, don't want anybody to know anything. And it's not because I'm doing something wrong or bad or anything. It's just that, hey, you mind your business, not all my mind kind of mentality.
You know what the foundation of that is? Distrust.
Yeah.
It's trust. Because, yeah, and he was saying that.
That's how it produces non-trustful followers.
Yeah, okay.
It's amazing.
Projecting.
Yep. Because, yeah, projecting. You project distrust on others, therefore people don't trust you. How can the law of imparting is give, and it shall be given unto you. If you want to be trusted, you have to trust others.
Yeah.
And to be trustworthy.
It's almost like I have that concept, but it's skewed somehow, you know, because
Fear.
Huh?
It's fear. Fear that you have trusted people before, but there's like the trust that you trusted with wasn't really trust. It was like a counterfeit, and because you got hurt through that, you want to protect yourself from not having to go through that pain again. So then you withhold trust from others because you associate trust with pain.
I remember when Sarah got hurt by Robert, and she's like, oh, she didn't want to trust anybody else, you know. And I could see her like going in that direction in life. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, don't do that. I've done that before. Don't do that. And so I was trying to counsel her to trust, to go out and trust and you know, be vulnerable. And yeah, I know that I don't. I'm more like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went through a similar experience too. I was like
I remember that.
living in domineering leadership, and it was very perplexing to me, and I was like hurt, and I was just like, whoa, I trusted so much so openly, and then was just hurt and just set aside. I'm like, how do I process that? What do I do? So I started to be more secretive, and I started, like, people were trying to help me, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. And I just wanted to keep everybody at arm's length, not let anyone in. And I like started developing like this shell, this hardened protection, that walls that I wouldn't let people go through.
That get thicker during the time of trouble.
Yeah, and it was lasted for, I don't know, maybe like 2 months or so, and it was just getting thicker and thicker. And I was secretive, not because I was doing anything wrong, but just because I didn't trust people. And I wouldn't trust them with information, wouldn't tell them what I'm doing, where I'm going, what my dreams are. I wouldn't just, like, I didn't ask for help unless I really had to. And I would just give you just enough information that...
to carry on.
Yeah. And so, but it was powerful because there's these two people. One person was, they, like, took me for a ride, and they were just, like, explaining some things, and they like, pointed out that it's, like, I was being like that. Like, I was that I need to learn. Like, there are people, he was explaining to me, it's like, there are people who love you and who care for you and actually want to help, and you have to allow them to help you. Because if you go throughout life and you're distrusting, then that is a really dark place to be, and you have to realize, that there are people who care and can be trusted. And I was just like, oh, that was weird. Why do you say that? And I didn't think much of it because I didn't realize what I was doing. It was a reaction because I was associating trust and people with pain, and I didn't want the pain. So, and then there was it was 2 days later. I'm working over here, and someone came up to me, and he was another person who was trying to help me. He's like, look, and he put his hand in your chest. He's like, you hold your cards too close to your chest. He's like, you need to let people in. People are trying to help you, and it was really shocking because I was just like, what? I'm like, I didn't realize I was doing that. But then I heard it 2 witnesses. It was more established, and I was like, whoa. And then it had me think and consider what is going on here. And then I realized I'm not trusting people. I am being distant from people. I'm keeping them away. And I'm like, oh, I'm associating the people with pain and trying to protect myself. I'm like, wait a second.
Just what Satan would have it.
And then I was experiencing this almost torment, this loneliness, this sorrow, this emptiness, and then I was like, wait, I haven't felt that since I was 16. When I was younger, 11 to 16, when I was really depressed. I'm like God delivered me from that. And it's wait a second. This is a similar feeling of how I was living in my mind was back then. And I'm like, wait a second. The path, I'm on early stages of the path that I'm going is going to take me down. I know where that path goes. I'm like, I don't want that.
Praise God. And
I was just like, wait a second. I already know where that goes. But then the alternative is wait a second. The only other option I have is to trust. It's distrust, try to protect myself and avoid the pain from having a friendship with people who I trust, and then it goes against me or something. Or learn to be vulnerable and to receive, to open myself to the pain again, that hurt. And I was just oh man, what do I... And I was just I don't want to do either one of them. But God showed me that I'd ask the question that is what if I get hurt again? And I realized it's not a matter of if I get hurt, it's when I get hurt. And the real question is, when I get hurt, God's will you still trust me? And I was like, whoa. And he was teaching me that God wants me to trust others, not because man is trustworthy, but because I trust God to get me through anything, any experience that I could encounter. And that was such a profound experience for me, where I realized oh, I can allow myself to be vulnerable again. I can allow myself to I realized that by distrusting everyone around me, I'm actually creating the very thing that I'm trying to avoid. Because it's painful to be lonely. It's painful not to trust people. It's painful to not have anyone you could rely on. But by trying to avoid that hurt, I actually perpetuate a hurt. So every moment of my day, every moment of my day is just pain and hurt. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. I experience daily pain in trying to avoid some future pain just in case. That doesn't make sense.
And you're actually focusing on the pain.
Yeah, the whole time.
By doing that.
That's right.
You know what that's like?
What?
It's the two what is it called? The two covenants in the Bible. And you could do it yourself, which leads you down that painful road that's always focused on that pain, or you could allow God to bring you through that, which will relieve that pain and allow that pain to get behind you. That's
so true.
Wow.
It was powerful.
Yeah.
So I learned that I had to trust people. I was going to live fully, and when I made that decision, it was one of the hardest decisions of my Christian experience, that I would trust others again. And it's like, from that day forward, it's just been like this
Gives you the
huge
power to,
release where I started having stronger relationships with people than I ever had before. Like more friends, more fulfillments, more just love and joy, and it's just like, it's incredible. It's like each day has been getting better and better. It's been like the best several years of my life ever since. It was just incredible.
What's nice about all those too is no matter where you are in that stack of leadership, you've changed.
Yep.
Praise
That's right.
God.
And this was a very healing exercise that I went through when I was understanding how this stuff works. I'm like, whoa. It made sense of why, like Carmen was saying, the experiences that I've gone through and who I've been in, the environments I've been around. You know when there's an unhealthy environment, but you can't quite put your finger on it. So that's what stood out to you, Mom?
Mm-hmm. What stood out to you?
In all honesty, I was like, I probably listened to that podcast like 10 times. And it's been a while, but I guess it's just like, that's fundamental, like it's been driving me these last like 4 years since I was learning about that. And what stood out to me is the type of followers it produces. Like I want to get that ingrained in my mind. So I'm just like, alright, hesitant followers, I'm being domineering. No, being unpredictable. People who are compliant, like I realize, like, yeah, that's domineering. It's a sign of that. Distrustful and being secretive. So maybe it's just areas I need to reflect. That's what stood out to me as the followers they produce.
That's interesting.
Carmen, did you write down the questions?
There was one that I didn't fully get.
Did you get the first one? First two? Those are the ones I didn't get.
How am I unpredictable as a leader?
Yes, so how am I unpredictable as a leader? You can share. I kind of think like we should start with the domineering first, because then it talks about creating a safe place to share and have feedback. That would almost like set it up better. Well, what if we're like, how am I domineering as a leader? I'm just assuming that I have domineering traits. And I won't be offended by what you say.
I think everybody goes into all of these in some ways at some point.
Yeah, and sometimes there are moments.
Yeah, sometimes are more drastic than other times, or some things, one point is more drastic than another, type or something, the way our brains work.
And sometimes it could be a people by people situation too.
Yeah.
You might be secretive with one person and
Right.
domineering with the other and empowering
Yes.
with another.
Yes.
It's like, Lord, help me.
Call on people, Nick.
What's on your mind, Carmen? Are you thinking of something but hesitant to share?
I'm trying to formulate it.
You know what I do when I try to formulate something? What do I do?
Just jump off the cliff.
Jump off the cliff.
That's what I do.
That's right.
Because it kind of has to form then. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, it goes like that. Even if you mess up, find a room to get you back on track.
Michael and I have this thing. It's like, so I don't really know how to say this. Do I have your permission to speak inadequately? And it's just kind of like prefacing, like what I'm about to say is not like the perfect language, but it's like
Might come out wrong.
Yeah.
But let's get it out on the table.
But it creates that buffer to be like, oh, okay, I understand. And I'm not going to be like, how dare you say that one word? What do you mean by that?
Okay, well, I'm not sure what causes this, but I find that, at least with myself, sometimes your suggestions come off like commands. I'm not sure if it's like your tone or I don't know, but that's something I've noticed.
That's good. Thank you. I would say probably what causes it is a lot of the leadership that I learned in like my infancy of ministry and stuff was very domineering. I was like under that a lot, and so
Wait.
I'm
What are you saying? When did you learn domineering?
in the infancy of doing
Leadership?
ministry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant when you were a child and being brought up.
No, just
Oh.
like my baby Christian experience and
I
the
see.
leaders that I was around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of domineering traits.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I'm often warring with the domineering stuff because a lot of the principles that I observed, I never really agreed with them. But there's just some things that I have to like just realize like, man, that was just trash advice. That was terrible. Or it's like, that's not Christ-like, or whatever the case is. So I have to learn to replace that. But I read the book, How to Win Friends, Influence People, and they were saying that it was one of the sections in there, it's like, never give commands. And it's like, don't tell people what to do. Like, that was one of the principles. And it's like, let the people think it's their idea, or let the people come up with it. Or there was one story that they gave where this guy, he was a good leader, and he just only gave suggestions. Like, he refused to give anything else. He just like suggested, and they were gentle, they were light, they were just, true suggestions. But I realized when I heard that, I'm like, man, I'm like domineering. It's like I don't give suggestions. I'm like, how do I change that? So I'm still trying to figure out how to do that, and so I may have like changed the words, but still not fully figured out how to change like the idea behind the words, if you understand what I mean. So I'm like trying to develop that skill, and that's something that I've realized that I'm struggling with, and I appreciate your feedback because it helps me. I was thinking about that a couple days ago too. It's like, Lord, help me to be, give people liberty and freedom, and I don't want to micromanage. I want to tell people how to do things. It creates more work for me and them, and doesn't allow people to use their gifts. It's not empowering. Thanks for that feedback. Is there anything else? I want to apologize too. Sorry, it's something I'm trying to get better at. Kathy, what are you thinking about?
I took notes.
Okay.
We talked about it.
Alright, sounds good. What about you, Mom? I know you got all sorts of good stuff to share. You're gonna stick me through the ringer. Alright.
Domineering. No, I feel like something that's really important to you is being persuasive. And so sometimes when somebody has a different opinion than you do, your persuasiveness kicks in, and it's like, wait a minute, you're not hearing me. It's like this. Nope, like this. like this, until the person comes into alignment with the way you think. And I feel like that's really domineering. Even if you're able to persuade them and they say, "Oh yeah, okay, you are right," it's domineering, I think.
You know where I get that from? My mother.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
But,
it's the same thing.
Yeah. It's really prominent when you got two strong traits like that are trying to communicate. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh man.
Because actually communication is trying to sway somebody over onto your side to go to of course we need to reason together and come to the best, but persuade our communication is trying to persuade somebody to understand and see things the way you do.
I would like to know where the balance is at, because sometimes, like last night when you and I were talking, we were at completely different, like wide opposite ends of the spectrum of like just in case learning or just in time learning. Like you're like all these reasons why you don't like learning things just in time, and I have like all these reasons I don't like learning things just in case, and then it was just like so drastically different. But the thing is, it's just like by you understanding that concept, like I believe that it could truly help and benefit you, and if you could see something, and you were open too, you were willing, you were asking for help, but it's just an example where it's just like, I know there's a level, there comes a point where it's just like, hey, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty, and people have the freedom to believe whatever they want. And I know, like, I don't mind if people believe different things.
Well,
but,
see, what we were talking about last night, you were breaking down belief systems that I've been carrying around with me for how many years? It was a way of life for me, and when you're touching on things like that, you have to push against it, because all I know is the way that I've been doing it. And so then here you come, saying, let's look at it a different way. It's like all the questions that come with it is already anchored in the way that I was doing it. And so you're trying to get those anchors to switch over into a new light, and it's like, that don't move so fast. That really doesn't. Not for anybody. Because it's almost like you're breaking down a denial system, that you just really need to penetrate the thinking there. And that's another thing, it's real abstract, so it's hard to show like an experience somewhere else, how that same idea works somewhere else. It's kind of hard to do. Is that my phone? And so anyway, yeah, that took a while, and I'm glad that you stuck with me and we were doing that, because it's a battle that I have in my head too.
And so what
Not quite like that, but
what I was saying though is, like, in situations like that, like I agree with what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying, and I do agree, and it's something that I genuinely question and wonder, because it's like, I realized that was a battle, that was challenging, but I know it's something that, like, you were trapped and you wanted to overcome. And I know that everything I believe isn't true, and just because I believe something doesn't mean like it's the way or the right way or the only way or the way that you should do.
But sometimes when you want something, you're like that. You come off across like your way is the only way, and it's the right thing to do, and that's what you're aiming for, and that's the only thing you're gonna respect.
And that's why, and that's where I was getting at, is because it is my belief. Like, I do believe it is the right way, and I believe that if people can receive that, they could benefit. Like in our situation, like if you could see the value in just-in-time learning, studying what's relevant, then you can greatly grow and so much could happen. But I guess fundamentally, I was listening to a podcast last night. It was really interesting. It was talking about how people. It was Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective
That's a good one, huh?
Men or People or something. Yeah, he was talking about listening with the intent to understand. Most people listen for the intent to reply, or most people listen so that they can respond, or they're
just
hearing.
listen to wait for you to shut up so they can say something.
Some people have selective hearing. Some people listen to different parts. Some people just look like they're listening, but like actually listening, so empathetic listening and learning to appreciate where people are coming from and why they're doing that. And I believe like true persuasion too is genuinely understanding where someone's coming from, because when you listen to understand, when you have that empathetic connection, even if you don't agree with the person, you can still appreciate why they come to that conclusion. That's something that God was convicting me last night, was that it's like, yeah, I do need to listen more, especially like being a communicator. I want to talk more, so I do want to listen and strengthen my listening skill to understand where people are coming from. And I believe that if I did that, people can persuade me more. Like with the social horsepower, you and I were talking and I was listening, and because we realized that social horsepower will not help people, but it could help churches. We can set people up with the business pages or something, and we can publish for them without them receiving emails. Then listening to understand what you're saying and understanding what you said. When you said churches, it was like, boom. Like I was persuaded. I was fully persuaded. Like I totally agreed with what you were saying. But I guess the way to improve that is to be more listening. And I guess that's what he's saying too. How can I create a safe environment for you to feel that you can share?
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Well, we talked about it.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because that was like exactly what God was like laying down on me last night. That was interesting. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we won't get through all the questions, but I think that this was helpful. It was eye-opening. We get to learn and grow, and hopefully we can all get better.
I can't get through it unpredictable.
You want to get to unpredictable? Does anyone except for Mom want to get through unpredictable?
I don't think anybody wants to stand here and tell you now you're wrong in something.
Well,
you're the leader.
I would love to know. I'd love to be here and just figure out everything that I'm doing wrong. Feedback's some of my favorite stuff. This is what without this, then I'm in a very dark place. If the blind lead the blind, then we're both going to fall into a ditch. It's not good. Your feedback's essential. You wanted to go over that. Didn't we talk about unpredictable leadership last night, Mom? So did you want to cover the same stuff?
Did it get hashed out?
It did in my mind, but I think you have like the rut that you go down, this habit of thought that you just keep going through it, and then when you see another way, then it's easier to just resort back to that thinking. But I think the unpredictable.
I'm the only one who sees you as unpredictable.
I don't know. No.
Am I the only one who sees him as unpredictable?
Real unpredictable.
Huh?
So I'm probably real unpredictable. But I don't think Kathy wants to be here right now, and imagine Carmen's probably uncomfortable. No, not uncomfortable. You want to keep going?
Do you see him as unpredictable?
Sometimes.
How?
I think more so when it comes to me and what I do.
You mean the projects you work on?
Yeah.
I think that's Mom's concern too.
Where do you come from? Like he just came from the screen over there.
It's Kathy's gift. The
Kathy never did.
When you say you and what you do, can you give an example?
Mm,
That makes a lot of sense.
example.
This is really powerful because I see that you're hesitant a lot of times and uncertain what to do next or how to move forward. And I realize I'm like, if I could become more predictable, you would be less hesitant.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I'm
one,
not sure about a specific example, but it's like with the websites.
yes,
When we first started on that was like, I guess that was high priority. And I was just doing that and doing that and doing that, and I started to get comfortable. Well, not comfortable, but I started to get into a flow with that. And then as soon as something else came up, I don't remember what exactly. Then I was like, wait, what? I thought I was doing this. And now this is taking priority, and so. But I want to take what I'm currently doing and like, do I finish this and move on, or do I go on to the next thing? Or am I working on both at the same time, but then that lowers my productivity level on both of them? So there's that. It's hard for me to pick out a specific example.
that was a good example.
It was perfect, I think.
I wish I didn't erase the value ladder.
I think we have it burned into our brains, the value ladder, without seeing it.
I want to be able to recite it in my sleep. What I see with that is, so I'm probably not communicating well enough to clarify. That makes sense because the more you, well, anyways, the what's irrelevant until you understand the why, because what you described is you see a bunch of what am I doing? What are we doing next? What are we doing now? But your question is like, why are we doing this now? And so, not question the timing. I wonder. I don't know. It's like in my mind, it seems clear, like how I like when we spoke it or shared but I know that everything rises and falls in leadership. I haven't been clear. But with the website, that's something that would be good to keep doing, and you're very good at it. Part of the challenge with that is, like, originally when we set out to do it, partially I'll admit that, like, when I do something, I am very like all in and just like 100% like go, like just I don't like to do things like small. I like to do things big. I like to go all out and just I engross myself on like one thing at a time. And sometimes I can go further in planning than executing, and I want to improve with that. I'm trying to find the balance between moving forward, casting vision, and then getting things done too. So it's a healthy, I'm trying to figure that balance out. But but I realized too that it's like there are some things. I'm also testing. Like I'm testing to see what works and what doesn't work because I'm not exactly sure. I have some people who are sharing some information and just trying to piece things together. I'm actively learning about leadership, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But I was trying to figure out, like, for years I've been trying to balance some things. I'm fine-tuning some, but trying to understand, like, doing one thing till it's finished and moving on to the next. What we're talking about with the objective key results.
Mhm.
Because we don't have key results, it's unclear what the finish line is.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I see we get to a finish line, and it's like, great, we finished the race. I mean, there's still more training to do. There's more races to engage in the future. But like, we've got far enough that we finished. Like, it's a finish mark. And then it's like, now let's prepare for this one. And we have to get this far. But because we don't have the key result, the specific like number metric that we like, hey,
How do I know when I'm done?
yeah, how do I know when I'm done? So you're struggling with like, I don't feel like I'm done because there's so much more to do. And there is more to do. But like, I realize too that there's always going to be more to do. And we will never end. But there has to be some area where we have to cap something for now, saying that we finished it in its phase, and then develop something else, and then like improve, and then go back. And when we do this is like our huge focus until it's finish line. But that's why I think you're right with the unpredictable. A way that I could be more predictable is by having key results, metrics, specific numbers, like what we did when we're like, let's get 7 pages done. It's like, boom, we got 7 pages. That was great. That felt nice, huh? Fulfilling and accomplished. Because you're just like,
But if
boom,
there's
boom.
10 more after that,
Even if there's 10 more, if we're just like, let's do
I know,
7 by this
but
date
if
of
there's
today.
10 more after that, you don't set a goal for 7. You don't feel as accomplished because you feel like you never reached the whole amount. So that setting that goal is like, oh, we did it, yay!
Yeah.
Even
Sure.
if there's more afterwards, yeah.
So if we did more of that, you think it'd be more predictable?
Oh yeah, definitely. That would really help me out because I've lived a lot of my life just start, a whole bunch of different things, but I never finish, and it gets frustrating. I want to finish things.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, a definite finish line would be great.
Yeah, and like a definite aim, it shows you a bullseye. Like an aim, a target shows you like if you hit it, you know you hit it because it's like that's your aim. Otherwise, it's like go shoot, and you're like at what? How do I know if I got it?
At him!
That's interesting. But I see that this is an area that I'm trying to wrap my mind around with, because like many of us, we've started a lot of things and didn't finish, and we're trying to understand and improve and follow the counsel. But it's like, how do you choose how many you do? It just seems all subjective. It seems like guess. And honestly, I'm still struggling with fear of failure, because it's like, what if we set a number and we don't hit it, and then it's just like, then we fail. But I know intellectually, it's like if you hit the number, so it doesn't matter, I'm just going to like set another number. Or
If you aim for the star and you hit the moon, did you fail?
right, it's a lot better than setting such a low standard and then reaching it. It's like, that's fearful. So trying to figure out, and I realize that action breeds clarity. So the more of these like key results that we throw out and we test, we're going to figure out what is practical, what's possible, and having a number just really rallies our forces to do things. And I think that the more numbers we throw out, the more crafting and clear and realistic expectations we'll have of what we'll figure out.
And the more fulfilled you'll be too.
Yeah. I'm also struggling with like there's stretch goals and there's like realistic goals, and then but it's like when you do it realistically, then you like more likely hit your target. But if you have a stretch goal that's unrealistic, then you likely pass what you would have otherwise set. So, but then like you
Even
didn't
if
get your
you didn't
number.
reach it,
Yeah, but then it's kind of like, oh man, like there's so many different principles that are going through my mind that I'm trying to like filter and just like, it's the information overwhelm. Like what Mom and I were talking about. It's like I feel like this is an area that I have enough, but I'm not applying. And it's when I apply it to my life and our team and stuff, we're all going to benefit. And I'm trying to apply that, but it's information overwhelm when it comes to like the key result for me right now. There's an area I need to grow in. That's what Sebastian, like the whole thing was on last month. He's just like, you need to have a key result because that's your speedometer. It tells you if like it's like how fast you're going and if you're doing the right thing. If you're actually movement is not progress.
When do you talk to him again?
Just once a month.
You don't know when?
It's probably the Friday after the live cast.
Right, where you'll be in treatment.
Okay.
So should
Yeah.
I make it the following week when you're not in Fruitland?
Perhaps.
Because I didn't know about Fruitland at the time when it was going to be, so I'll change it.
Makes sense. That sounds good. Thank you,
Okay.
Kathy. Did you want to say something else, Carmen?
It was just like something just clicked in my mind where like I don't know about the quality or quantity, but something of our work expands according to the goal we set.
It's true. It does. And all of our talents, everything expands. Because Spirit Prophecy puts it this way, that never will we reach a higher standard than what we ourselves set. That's why it's not good to look low. We gotta look to Christ.
Yeah.
And like heaven's ideal, and we look at the cause of God, like
Look at that
we therefore-
second covenant.
yeah, teach all nations, like in light of the Great Commission, like whatever the standard we set, that's as high as we're going to go. We're never going to reach higher than what we set out to do. Many accomplish little because they attempt little.
So say your aim high.
Yes.
Yeah, brother. And then there's another concept. There's like when you set your aim high, there's a teaching that it's like the highest that you can think, 10x it. Just add it 10 times to whatever you've set.
What?
And what that does is it forces your mind to be innovative. It asks a totally different question of like, okay, if I'm going to 10x that, then it forced like I'm going to have to work differently than what I did before. And then it's not asking like how it's like who can help or like what would that entail, and then you come up with different solutions, different answers that are so innovative and changing that you wouldn't have done if you just set your aim high and didn't 10x it. Just like, oh man, sounds nice in theory, but it's important to put in practice. Well, did you want to say something?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. I think that a lot of what we were talking about last night has to do with this. So, an apple don't fall far from the tree. I think you're unpredictable in a manner that we're trotting down this road and then you're like, oh look, a butterfly. And then you see something that you perceive that's better than the road that we're on, and you run after it with all your might. And you're very organized and very, studious and everything. But it's like we have to just drop that and go over here and start working on that, because that's what everybody's doing, because you're directing them to do that. And then it makes it difficult. It's like, for me, it's difficult because I feel like I just put months or lots of time in this, and now all of a sudden we're going down this other road, and I haven't even like when you're mourning and you have to come to a closure sometime, it's like you're in the middle of mourning
Mourning
and
of
now,
a cherished project,
yeah,
or the
and then,
loss of
and then all of a sudden you're over here, and that's not. There's no closure to it. There's like it's there. You just put life into it, and the life is just there, not to be looked at or it's like it's neglected or something, and we're going off somewhere else, and to me that's kind of jarring, and
it makes you hesitant.
and yeah, and you know that I can handle starting something and not finishing it, but it just like I don't know, because when I'm working with people, I'm putting a different sort of something into it.
You're putting trust.
Yeah, and then when that happens, it's like, oh. And then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that, even though it looks good and it's going well, and just because I know it's gonna. Let's go there, and I don't know. That makes it hard for me to engage and my heart into it and keep me going. Yeah. And it's something. These things when we're telling you that you're domineering or you're unpredictable and such, it's like a reflection of us too. It's not all you're this way and you're that way because the way we're perceiving it has a lot to do with the way that we think, and so somebody else might be able to like overlook that and go right through it and run with you. But because of my limitations and my way of thinking and my way of doing things, it makes you being unpredictable very difficult for me. It's almost like when I'm raising you, and my inability to set the parameters around for you made it difficult for you to strive and thrive and be all that you could be. And it's almost the same way for me in that. And I'm the one who created you. Well, not created you, but created you to be that way.
Well, it was procreation too.
Yeah. Because of the way I treated you.
Train me and stuff.
Yeah.
Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it.
Exactly, yeah.
By the grace of God.
And so I'm just, I'm sorry, Enoch, that I raised you that way and that I'm that way, but
well, I believe that God's able to help us.
Yes, I do too.
By His grace, He can
That's
change
where we're
us.
at right now.
So I have a question for you. You see that I've been very unpredictable, switching things a lot. Do you see that more so in the past, or do you see that something I'm doing less of?
Oh yeah.
Do you think a lot of your concerns and baggage that you still carry with you is based on things that happened like 2 years ago or 1 year ago?
Perhaps. But the thing is, you might be out of the war, and then you run into one situation a month or something, but it brings you right back to that war.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like PTSD.
Yeah.
So you got some like trauma from being unpredictable.
Yeah.
Unpredictability. Okay, so let me ask you another question. Forgot what I was going to ask you. So did you see this getting better? Oh! One of the things that I realized about the unpredictable leadership, and I'll say like some of the reason why I do that, is because I am constantly looking for just-in-time learning, and I'm trying to figure out what is the piece of information that we can apply right now, immediately. Like if we're on step 6, how can we get to step 7? I'm trying to figure out, well actually, like, this is like, so if we're right here,
Are those stairs, or is that like a graph of some
that's a
sort?
staircase. This staircase. So these are steps from Dr. Seuss.
Oh.
This is in Whoville, where everything's all squiggly.
Okay.
So let's say we're on step 6 and don't count them, and we're trying to get to step 7.
Uh-huh.
What I'm trying to do is I want to understand what do we need to get from here to here. How can we make that loop? And that's the only thing I want to know. But as I'm doing research, trying to figure out what do we need to get there, my mind, sometimes in my research, I find that like salespeople are persuasive. They want to like teachers, anyone who like can communicate a message. They're persuasive about how like my idea is the idea that's going to solve your problem. Like my idea is going to help you, and it shows you all the possibilities of what you can do.
That's what the aim is, right?
That's what the aim is. Yeah. In education, you want people to see the value in what you're sharing in a way that they could like apply to their life. But then as I'm going through, like I might be going through something, being like, okay, this is what's going to help us to get to the next step. But so I'm learning. I'm like, okay, as I'm learning, it's like, okay, let's do this, let's apply it. But then as I'm applying it, I realize, like, wait a second.
We should be 10Xing.
No. What I realized is what we had started to try to implement was actually on like step 10.
Okay.
And that it's further ahead. It's not just in time learning, it's just in case. I'm like, wait a second, I want to figure out how to get to the next step. That was not what we needed to go next. This will be important to do in the future, like the Dream 100. Like when I bought that Dream 100 book, I bought the book and I'm like, oh, I'm just hearing everyone talk about Dream 100. I'm like, whoa, Dream 100 sounds like this is a solution. They talk about if they were going to start in 30 days and they were just getting started, they do Dream 100 and all this stuff. I'm like, oh wow, it's like, maybe, like, there's only a certain number of times you can listen to that, and then you're like, okay, I gotta check it out, finally, I'll break down and get the book. So we get the book, and we're going through, I'm like, this is powerful, this is profound. It's like, whoa, we start talking about it, and you're like, let's do Dream 100. But then I'm like, trying to figure out, how do we apply this? How can we apply this right now? How can we start doing it right now? And in order to do that, by saying yes to the Dream 100, we're saying no to getting to step 7. And so I realized, I'm like, wait a second. But by then, that time, I already spent like 3 hours, like, consuming the book and trying to process how this applies to us. So then I'm like, okay, what we need to do is we actually need to take a few steps back and stay focused on what we're doing. And it's not necessarily that like I'm like, let's do this and this and this and this, although it's a level of that. But a lot of times I realize that when I realize that's not the step we're at, I take a few steps back and like, well, let's do this now. And that's sometimes what's going on. But honestly, I'm trying to figure out how to get to the next step. Ideally, what I want for everybody, I want everyone on the team to be focusing on how can we get to step 7. I realize we all grow faster when the whole team is focusing on step 7, and we get to step 8, 9, 10, and
that's like when we were focusing on the slides.
Yeah.
Damn, did you see how much we got done in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's true. And that doesn't mean that we all quit our skills and expertise and stuff. It's just like the different things that we contribute to the table, how we complement each other. When we put all our complementary skills on a common goal, we get 1 goal, 2, 3, 4, and we just go up. We go up so much faster. But what I realize, the times when we are moving the slowest, when we're being the least fulfilled, when people are working in silos, we're not communicating, and when like we are facing troubles. Like, have you ever like been working on something and you're stuck with a problem? And you don't know how, like, there's no one else that you think that you can go to ask for help, and you're just like, man, I wish that I could just ask someone for a solution here. What's going on when that happens is Kamran's working on this step, Mom is working over here, and then I might be here, and Kathy's going to be here, and then, like, there might be 2 or 3 people here. And because we're all working on different steps, we are, like, for Mom to help Kamran over here is going to be a distraction. For like Kathy to ask for help from you, she feels it would be a distraction. But what I realize is the more that we focus on the same thing, it wouldn't be a distraction. It would be aiding. It would be relevant. It would be just in time. Like what Kamran's working on is actively what Kathy is struggling with. So when Kathy has a question, she can ask Kamran. Kamran's not like, oh, now I gotta switch from this task and go over to this unrelated task, but we're realizing, oh no, we're going towards the same task. And then the more of our energies we can get to the next thing, then we all grow and we got a new problem. And I realize that we get to tackle that together. I'm trying to process that, I'm trying to get better at that and realize that doing less better. And the less that we do has a greater impact in the world and the organization. So just pray for us as we're trying to do that.
Amen.
And if you have suggestions on when you see like this is where we're at, and this is a step like we should be focusing on. It'd be like I'm up for suggestions, but this
Yeah,
is,
we need to help each other do that.
we do need to help each other. Okay, well that's good. Do you guys see that I'm secretive?
A little
Yeah.
here, a little there.
I don't, just the opposite. When he said that, I wrote on the side of the Army of Youth, open. I think you're very open. I think the leadership and the Army of Youth is very open. That's what I wrote during the session.
What do you think, Cameron?
I think so too.
What do you think, Mom? You
A
said a
little
little bit.
here, a little there. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost, I don't know that it's secretive. It's just that you're kind of like sometimes, especially with me, you're like, oh, you weren't there? Well, go watch this podcast or something. You know, it's like I'm not gonna let you in on that. Just I'm not wasting time there. Go ahead. And then sometimes on just here and there, I can't even remember when, but there's been times when I've asked you things and you're just unwilling to say. Not that there's a podcast on it or anything, you're just unwilling to say.
So when you're like working over here asking for help on something or a solution, or you're trying to get information, and I'm right here and you're trying to ask me for something and I don't want to help you?
No, it's more like the other day, kind of, you were, hey, there's Trash Man.
I already have it there.
Okay.
Thank you.
You remember when we were talking about, or not talking, you learned something to do in 90 seconds or something, remember? And I was like, what is it? And you're like, oh, I'm not going to tell you right now. I kind of,
I don't know if that's really secretive.
what was it?
I want to test it out. I want to test it out before I share
I
it.
want to test it out too.
Yeah, I want to test it before I share it.
I want to test it out too.
I've got a lot of questions about it, so I'm not going to share some I've got questions on. And I think it builds anticipation. But I see what you're saying. I would say that like one of the reasons why I'm so open and trusting with people is because I've been under domineering situations, and I started to distrust people. And after the experience I just described earlier, I went through so much distrust of others that God kind of like healed me from that, and I realized that the secret to happiness and health and relationships that I want and friendships that are meaningful and deep and abiding is I have to trust people. And the more that I share, the more that I care. Like the more people will care. I want people to care, and I care for people, so I want to share with stuff. Yes.
Okay. Another thing that comes to my mind, it's not so much that you're secretive with me, it's like, remember yesterday we were talking about sharing SWO, and I don't know, in my heart, the way that I translate that in my mind is that you're being secretive.
Okay.
Being,
Well, I think it might be like
you
that.
kind of explained that yesterday, though.
It might be the principle that it's like, who art thou that judgest another, wherein that thou judgest, you do the same things. Whereas kind of like kindred spirit, like because you have that tendency.
Zero in on it.
Yeah, because you have that tendency, it's easier for you to see it in others, whether it's there or not. But we did talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand it more, but I was just bringing that up because that's when I felt like you were being secretive. I was like, well, why is he being like that?
Well, that's a lack of communication. It's not because I was like withholding truth. It was just like there was enough time to explain it, and it was never something to bring up at the time. And after it was, I shared with you freely and openly.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it. I don't look at it the same way either. So.
Okay, then well, let's close with the word of
I
praise.
just brought that up because I was trying to think of something like that. You know?
Thanks for all your input, everyone. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for giving us this opportunity to grow and just to understand the different types of leaders. I pray that you will bring healing in our life, that you will help us to see where we can improve as leaders for your cause. Help us to be like Christ. Help us to be a Christ-like leader, and one that will reflect you wherever we go. I pray that you will help me to grow and help me not to be a limitation or a stumbling block or to cause pain or conflict, or help me not to cause harm to people who are under my influence. I pray that I can be humbled and be a learner, be a student, improve my listening skills, my understanding skills, teach all of us to be empathetic in hearing of one another. I pray that I just pray that you will strengthen our weaknesses, and that your grace can be sufficient for us, and that we can believe your promises. Thank you for the privilege we have to serve you with a team that loves you and wants to grow. We pray that we thank you. We pray for your blessing today in Jesus' name. Amen.
And I want to say that that's one thing when you sit down and you reflect upon yourself, but it's quite the opposite when you stand there and you let other people reflect on you. You did good there. I want to say thank you.
Well, praise the Lord. When I say that, like, your feedback is extremely valuable and important to me, like, there's only so much I can reflect on myself. I've got a veil that I can't see my own stuff, but when you guys give me feedback, that's what I need. No organization could be good without honest upward communication, and I need the
So what did you like the most about what you learned there with that reflection and everything?
Just the examples, the specific examples you guys gave of when I was reflecting these bad leadership qualities. It helped me to.
I think you're a great leader, though.
It helped me. I have a lot of room to improve, and I know that I need to grow. And so, and I also like that you guys trust me enough to share that with me. That was nice.
You're a good leader. I'm glad you're a leader. I'm glad I get to be around you.
Nothing without Christ.
All of us. Praise ye the Lord, hallelujah. And guess who called me?